Hi, I'm Susan Herskowitz, and welcome to the Uranian Astrologer. The Uranian system of astrology is really our most advanced and evolved system of astrology to date. It was developed in the early 20th century by a group of astrologers and led by Alfred Witte, who was really instrumental in cleaning up astrology and shifting it into this new paradigm that is the Uranian system. Now, on first inspection, the Uranian system seems to be this really high-tech system of precision, which it is, but perhaps the more profound enhancement to astrology is in its ability to reveal patterns, to really illuminate the storyline of an individual in terms of their operating systems, in terms of their consciousness, in terms of their soul's journey. So let's take a look at some of the history as well as this three-dimensional picture that is the Uranian system. Alfred Witte was a renowned German astrologer and a member of the Kepler Circle. Now, the Kepler Circle was a group of avant-garde astrologic minds whose main purpose was to clean up and evolve astrology based on the groundwork laid by Johann Kepler. Now, up until that time, the methods of charting the skies had been fairly crude, going from the advent of the telescope to the pendulum clock. We were still in the early 20th century dealing with a two-dimensional system trying to understand a three-dimensional picture. Now, Witte and his colleague Friedrich Seegren were trying to use the traditional system to calculate and predict Russian artillery barrages during World War I based on precise astrological records that they kept, but they couldn't do it. So Witte creates this whole new system that is geometrically based as well as based on symmetry between planets. So gone is the two-dimensional static chart, which most astrologers still use today, and in was the movable dial, and with the movable dial he can now reference any plane or point he would like, and then when he references a point or plane, he can see symmetrical arrangements, that is, things that are equal distance to that point that gives us even more information about the point in question. So all these tools and techniques were really a major breakthrough for the time. Let's go back to the battlefront. So with the dial, Witte and Seegren were now beginning to accurately time the bombardments with amazing precision. But perhaps the equally important discovery Witte had made was that he started to notice on the dial unoccupied points that were repeatedly being activated when things would happen in the environment. And so after years of proofing, he aptly named these spots Hades and Capito. And these are referred to as Trans-Neptunian planets in the Uranian system. The Trans-Neptunian planets are actually hypotheticals. Now, the physical bodies have never been discovered, but they are points of energy, and from my own personal experience using them over many years in chart analysis, they do add a tremendous amount of clarity and depth to a chart. And it doesn't matter whether you're looking at a natal chart or a chart of a nation. So why is the Uranian system so important, and what can it offer up in terms of taking a deeper look at our personal natal birth charts? I think in order to get a perspective here, we really need to take another look at both systems, the traditional system of astrology and the Uranian system of astrology. Again, in the traditional system, you have the house systems, which are the areas of life experience. You have the planets that tenant the houses and the dynamic energetic interchanges between the planets and the angles. So in essence, you have maybe 40 to 50 pieces of information from which to get a cohesive picture as to how a person is built on a deep level. In the Uranian system, what you get, since it's an energetic picture, is an infinite amount of information. And so we can go to the Uranian chart, and again, we have that movable dial. We can go to many different planes of information, or midpoints, which are points that are equidistant between two planets. And what we can glean from these pictures ultimately are patterns, and patterns become more pronounced as we get deeper into the chart, and we get patterns that start to repeat. And when patterns repeat, what we are getting is a glimpse into the person's consciousness. We're getting a glimpse into how they are built on a profound level, and you just can't see that in the traditional chart. So one of the most important points in the Uranian system is the meridian. In the traditional chart, the midheaven is the 10th house cusp, and it's the area of career and social aspirations, and it's kind of as simple as that. But in the Uranian system, it's really the first point, one of the first points that we go to, because it's like a snapshot of the soul. It is a picture of our consciousness. It's our soul essence, what we really want to do, regardless of whether it brings attention and recognition from the outside. The meridian, as Alfred Witte puts it, is also, it's the I, the me, the my. So when we combine the meridian with other planets, say Mercury, and Mercury is how we communicate, it's our thoughts. It would be Meridian Mercury, my thoughts. Or let's combine it with the moon, which is our emotions, our emotional unconscious. It would be my emotions. So we can go to those midpoints and take a look at what planetary pictures are descriptive of the person around that. So we can make any combination of any planet or plane that we would like in the Uranian system. So as you can see, the Uranian system is brilliant at illuminating patterns and really gives us a very deep perspective in terms of the person's consciousness, in terms of the person's potential, and their soul journey. So as you can see, the Uranian system is an amazing tool for a rich interpretive experience. And I don't know about you, but I'm much more interested in the story of someone's human journey. I'm not as interested in the pieces and the parts and the traits, although the story definitely encompasses that. Because once we have a story, then we can, it always sparks a dialogue, and we can begin to talk about what keeps us from our abundance, perhaps the patterns that we get into, so that we can begin to make some really great choices in our lives. I encourage you to watch my other two videos on specifics of the Uranian system, which are the Trans-Neptunians. We're going to take a look at those planets and how they operate, and also the personal points as well, those being the Aries point, Meridian, Ascendant, the Sun, the Moon, and the Node, that are very important and specific to each chart.